from now, so moves cannot officially be made. But the Cowboys have still yet to even talk about a notable move. Shady McCoy, the Dallas Cowboys, I'm wondering, does that Deebo Samuel addition to the Commanders put more pressure on them?
I think so. I mean, if you think about this, so the Cowboys, they didn't make no moves last year, really. And they get to this, they had a bad season, right? And they want to blame it on the quarterback getting hurt. But before the quarterback got hurt, they were not having a great season.
Correct.
Okay, let's go to this season. So we see the Commanders making some moves. You see where the Commanders went to last year. They went to the NFC Championship game with a rookie quarterback. So you know what's going to get better.
Yeah.
They're going to add some defensive pieces, I'm sure. I'm hearing Myles Garrett. He's in the running to get on the defense, right? But right now, as it stands, the Cowboys haven't made no moves.
Yeah.
No moves as in signing your best defensive player on the team, signing your best player, Michael Parsons. You don't get him. So now, if we look at it today, now you're the third best team in the division. Used to be number one. Used to be a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Now you're third. Okay. Yo, quarterback. I think this league is driven by quarterbacks.
Yeah.
We all agree with that?
Yes.
Well, now you're the third best quarterback in the division.
Ooh.
I mean, am I tripping here?
No, sir.
Am I tripping here?
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe.
I don't know. One guy went to the Super Bowl. The other guy, I mean, he probably is the most talented guy in the division. So as I look at this thing, everybody's getting better around you, right? And you not.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the NFC. I'm talking about the NFC East.
They're in your division.
So I don't know how y'all see it, but I see it as if a lot of pressure that you're not answering to.
I see it similarly for two reasons. When you talk about ball, first thing is, how do you match up to the teams in your division? And at this point in time, Cowboys, you match up worse versus the Commanders. Cowboys have defensive backs that are good at taking the ball away, but you don't have cornerbacks that like to tackle. Trayvon Diggs, notably, does not like to tackle. Deron Bland, when healthy, does not necessarily like to tackle. However, Deebo Samuel is the hardest receiver to tackle when he has the ball in his hand. Deebo and Jamar Chase, I would suggest. So from a micro perspective, Cowboys, you are worse than the Commanders because now the Commanders have a positional advantage over you. Deebo's hard to tackle, and your corners do not like to tackle. Furthermore, from a macro perspective, the Commanders have gotten better, and Cowboys, you still have not. The Commanders are making moves, and Cowboys, you still are not. Eagles were already better than the Cowboys. Commanders were already better than the Cowboys. And now the Commanders have added a number 2 playmaker on offense. Meanwhile, Cowboys, we've been searching for you all to get a number 2 playmaker on offense. Remember, that's the Cowboys' biggest need right now offensively is either a running back, a shirt-up replacement for Zach Martin, a number 2 playmaker on offense, yet the Commanders had the same need, and they did something about it while you didn't. Commanders acquired Deebo Samuel for a 5th-round pick. A 5th-round pick. Cowboys, you have a 5th-round pick you could have given up. I understand there is money involved, like Micah Parsons tweeted about. You can figure it out. Howie Roseman, he always seems to find a way to do so. So I think it absolutely puts pressure on the Cowboys watching that.
I couldn't disagree more. And it's not anything to do with the Eagles or the Commanders, because I completely agree with you. The Cowboys are the 3rd best team in the division. But the Cowboys have always and will always move at their own speed. They don't care about outside pressure. Quite honestly, all the things you said they need, they're not addressing it. Last year in free agency, league-wide spending, free agency, because it's coming up in a week, less than a week. Okay, league-wide spending was $111 million. The Dallas Cowboys signed a long snapper and a backup linebacker, and they spent $19 million. And this just goes to the roster-building thing. The Commanders are doing the absolute right thing. When you have a rookie quarterback, you build around him when you can, and you do not have to pay him a $60 million a year salary like Dak Prescott. And quite honestly, in this league today, it is very, very difficult for anyone at any team to build a team with 3 $30+ million players. When you just pay your star players, $60 million for Dak, $35 for CD, 38, maybe 40 for Micah, there's only so much to go around. And I understand the salary cap is rising, but that's how the Cowboys are. They don't trade for people very rarely. They don't build through free agency. They build through the draft. And what has it gotten them, Shady? Like you said yesterday, 35 or 36 years have gone by since they've been in a championship game. So quite honestly, Jerry Jones, I think, is a little outdated in his style. Will McClay, a little maybe outdated in his style. I like building through the draft. You can no longer have that luxury of building through the draft. Your team needs way more players than you can draft and be substantial starters for day one. Maybe it's time to change. Maybe it's time to go out and get those, I'm not talking about star players, but those players that are number 10 through number 40 on your roster who are every down players on special teams, on defense. Maybe they're not making $30 million a year. Maybe they're making $10 million a year. Go out and get those solid players. Howie Roseman, in your division, went out and probably signed the greatest signing of all time for the money in Zach Bond. $1.25 million, $1.5 million. Zach Bond got votes for Defensive Player of the Year. Where is that for the Dallas Cowboys? It's non-existent.
You know what? I thought, well, the answer is no, but I thought Shady was going to have my take. Because it don't put more pressure on the Dallas Cowboys. It puts more pressure on Dak Prescott.
Oh, okay.
And the main reason why I say that is because we watched Josh Allen this year with not really a good roster, at least coming into the season. And we seen him raise the level of the team by the way he played, right? We seen it on the other side, right? We seen Sam Darnold play really well all year long, and when the games really mattered and you playing against two really good football teams,
He showed up.
you showed up and you played bad and your team lost. We seen Jared Goff play solid all year long and you showed up and played really, really bad. And then we seen Jaden Daniels in the biggest moments play flawless football and look like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and that is why his team was in the NFC Championship. Say whatever we want to say about Jalen Hurts. In the biggest games against the Rams and against Patty Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, he showed up and had two of his best games of his career, basically, and definitely of the season. Dak Prescott, you're arguably the third best quarterback in the division now. Usually you come into the season and you say, hey, Giants 2 wins, Commanders 2 wins. All right, we'll figure out some other wins in between. I'll get this team to 12 wins. You can't say that now. So now when you play Jaden Daniels, you have to elevate your game. When you play the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, you have to elevate your game. Who knows who the Giants is going to have at the quarterback spot? You are going to have to elevate your game. So to me, it puts more pressure on Dak Prescott because the Cowboys ain't going to be aggressive in free agency because they never been. That's just not what they do. So if this team is going to have any chance and to win some games, it's going to have to be because Dak Prescott in the biggest moments elevates his game. All the pressure, in my humble opinion, is on Dak Prescott. A bunch of good players is not coming into that building. You are going to have to raise your level of play, and it puts a whole lot more pressure on Dak Prescott.
Yeah, I just, how much more can Dak raise his level of play, though? Because we've seen him.
I like this conversation now.
We've seen him finish second in MVP voting in the regular season. And at what point, though, do you move on and be like, if you're not going to go out and surround your guys,
I think this is that year.
Because the Eagles have surrounded Jalen Hurts with a lot of great guys. The Commanders surrounded some good guys. Jaden has done that. At some point, you have to say, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is the $60 million a year worth getting to the playoffs? Maybe. But you guys, and we're all saying they're the third team in the division. Right, so eventually I think that's a conversation for the Cowboys. What else is out there? Can we get the same amount of production from somebody not named Dak in the regular season, and maybe we find a Jaden Daniels?
But don't you believe no? Because we've had this conversation.
Yes, and I do, but that's the hardest part of the whole situation is that in this NFL, it's very difficult to find a quarterback that can get you to the playoffs. Now, I do agree it's on the quarterback once the playoffs start to get that monkey off his back and to break through. I just don't know with the team that's given to him right now if he can do that. Because quite honestly, and what Shady is, you are what you are. He's never done it.
I don't know if it's still that hard to find a quarterback who can get their team
I don't
to the
think it's that
playoffs.
hard at all.
In this day and age, mind you, 7 teams make the playoffs. It's only 16 in the league. I think 44% of NFL teams make the playoffs. Correct me if I'm wrong, off camera, 44%. So about 50 if you want to round that joint up. We've seen Daniel Jones make the playoffs.
Trevor Lawrence made the playoffs.
I'm just taking the division. We've seen Taylor Heineke make the playoffs in the Cowboys division. So what I'm suggesting is the barometer of success for the Cowboys and Dak Prescott can no longer be he gets you to the playoffs. Because with all due respect, Baker done made it, I think, back-to-back.
I completely agree.
So, like, in the NFC, making the playoffs just can no longer be a mark of success. Kind of like Shady's taught me and James has taught me. 1,000-yard season for a running back, that used to be a big deal. For a receiver, that used to be a big deal. Now that the games are more, now it's kind of like, it don't mean all that much. Even Tom Brady said it on a Fox broadcast. It don't mean all that much anymore. In the same way, making the playoffs just does not mean enough. Dak gotta do more, and I just don't know that he can.
I think you're going to look back on this Dak Prescott contract in 5-6 years, maybe when he's retired or when he's playing elsewhere or whatever, and they're going to study this and say this is the absolute wrong way to build a team. Like paying a guy that gets us to the playoffs, $60 million, and handicapping. I'm all for players. I was a union rep, right? But handicapping your team's success because you're about to be the first team in NFL history, if they get a deal done, with paying